You coach people who have reached success. What do you think is the common struggle?
People I know who have enough to live 10 lifetimes, but isn't deeply satisfied. It's because they, no matter how big the house is, in fact, it's the opposite. What happens when you can't run away? We did it! We closed the deal! That's a temporary feeling good. There's a deeper sense of feeling good that can't be shaken by circumstance. The only choice we really get to make in life is how we. The reason I don't want to take feedback is because...
Wow. Can you repeat that? Because that just resonated.
Yeah, I mean...
Welcome to another episode of You versus You. Today's episode, I have a really special guest, someone who's been a guiding light through this journey of not only creating this podcast, but most importantly, looking at the internal part of my life and this new discovery of what it means to be alive, to have purpose, to have joy, to have happiness. You have heard me say his name. You have heard me talk about him through almost every single episode that we've filmed. Ishmael, welcome to You versus You. What is the metrics of true success?
Yeah.
We have told each other so many stories, and I mean each other as a human race that of what those metrics are. So
What are they for you?
you know, I used to think that success meant more than I have, whether that was more than I have in my career, more than I have in a place of love, more than I have in the bank account, just the acquisition of more. And in this journey together, I've started to discover how far from the truth that really is, and the acceptance that you always tell me, have you ever thought that you're just okay? Everything is okay. And that really has resonated with me, and the idea that I am actually perfectly okay, and that the add-ons, whether hard or blessings, are just that. They're add-ons to that journey of discovery and learning, but I'm okay, even if nothing changed.
Yeah. What is it to be, like, what does success really mean? The first thing that comes up for me is like that I walk into my front door and there's nothing in the way of me feeling love for the people that are in the house with me, that I can stop long enough to really be present with the ones I love, and that if there's something in the way, that we have tools so that we can kind of work through it to get to a place of, I don't know, peace and connection and kindness and investigation. That's a big part of success. There is the part of like, I'd rather not be spending all my time worrying about money. So there is an element to like, I want a home, want, enough to make my life work, but I don't see a direct relationship between the more I have, the more successful I am. In fact, there's this thing that I feel like happens in our culture where we think success is getting bigger. Like the bigger we get, the more successful we are, which is, I think, what you were talking about. Like,
Yeah.
There's more. If I get more, I'll be, and that can be called dukkha, which is in the future, when I have, then I will have success. And I think real success is when, I think what you're trying to say is when I'm content with what I have right now, that's a better metric to like what real success is. That like, it's both, because there's times when I want it to be different than it is, and I'm also accepting what it is. And so that's one for me. Another one is, I think the highest success that I've reached in my life so far is looking at my own internal landscape and not being so hard on myself for what I see. Like, my sons, I would never tell them like, hey, you don't deserve love because of your behavior or because of a mistake that you made. And yet there's been all through my life this part of me that feels like...
I hope you're enjoying this episode of You versus You. If these conversations are inspiring you and are bringing value to your life, please make sure to subscribe, join the community, and don't forget to share with anyone who you think needs to hear this. Our goal here is to continue to bring the best guests. So if you have any ideas who you would want next on our podcast, make sure to write it in the comments, and our team will work really hard to bring the best guests and the best conversations to continue to inspire you. Thank you for supporting the show. Now let's get back to our episode.
I'm not worthy to be here or even take up the space that my body and my breath takes in because of the mistakes, because of what I've done wrong. And I just I'm learning that like the more willing I am to look at myself and not judge myself for what I see, the more I feel like I have a sense of belonging and connection. Like direct relationship between my sense of belonging and connection and how I feel about myself. Everyone in the world that I even respect can tell me I'm doing well, but if I am not loving myself, then I can't believe it. And even when people are telling me I'm not doing well, but I feel really good about myself, it's really easy for me to go, well, thanks for the feedback. That's good information. Right? And I think that's what real success is. And in a culture where, it's so kind of put into our minds that success is what you do, right? That nobody at the end of their life and their deathbed goes, I wish I would have done more. Everyone says, I wish I would have been with the people I love more. I wish I would have been more present in the connection to my people, right? And
Mm.
I think that as we start to do less and be more, I think that's a better metric to what real success is.
Why do you think we struggle so much to be present?
I think for me, it's because if I stop long enough to look at myself, I generally have felt bad about what I see. So I'd rather not be present. I'd rather do something to try to make this feeling go away. It's important for me to be able to sit with uncomfortable feelings, to not try
Mm.
to fix it through my doing. And I'm not saying that I get that right all the time, but more willingness to sit with my uncomfortability and then to reflect it to the people I love, that I'm uncomfortable right now and be okay with that uncomfortability and investigate it, right? Like I want to look at it. I don't just want to be uncomfortable, but sometimes I just wake up in the morning and it's not comfortable. And I generally try to jump on my phone or do something to get rid of the feeling. And there's something about being able to sit with that. Am I willing to just sit with my uncomfortability instead of trying to do it away? And I've spent a lot of my life. So what happens when you can't run away? Then
Mhm.
that's what happens at your deathbed if you don't study it beforehand. It's uncomfortable, as you start to die, which, none of us, like we were saying, none of us knows when the end comes. And I want to live as though like I'm not assuming there is another tomorrow.
There's so many things that I've learned through this process with you. That idea of the understanding, I should say, of stillness as the purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and then releasing the needing to control what happens, and the idea that we actually control
And yeah,
um, any of it, but being able to sit still and listen, and then kind of once you hear courageous enough to make that move
mm-hmm.
into action. You coach people of influence or success. What do you think is the common struggle between the group of successful, accomplished
Mm-hmm.
humans that you coach?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody that I meet who has reached what we call success in our society, but isn't deeply satisfied, it's because they believed that success and safety, deep safety, was like what I had and what I did. And that's what we're taught. Like, there's no roadmap telling us what it is to feel deeply good. Right. And so, like, I need to get a good job. I need to make money. I mean, all three of my sons have had that version of like successes. Like, I've got a big house, I've got a really nice car, and yet, whenever I'm with anybody who, is highly affluent and, has a lot of money, they don't seem happier in any way whatsoever than like no matter how big the house is. In fact, it's the opposite. And then the struggle is being able to let go of the momentum it took to create that wealth so that they can slow down enough to really look at themselves and feel and like, have a really good look. What's missing is a deep spiritual or deep, it doesn't even have to be spiritual, but just a deep sense of purpose in the world. And for me, and like, I want to feel good and I want to serve, I want to help, I want to give back. And like so much of what feels good to me is to help others to find the peace that, I'm sitting in more and more as I grow older. It's like a ripening, like you can either just keep going. Like this number of people I know who have enough to live 10 lifetimes. And yet the only thing they know to do to try to make themselves feel better is just to acquire more. And so, I can understand why on one level, but I don't see them getting any happier from that. And so it's like, what's that Bible verse? Like, it's harder for a rich man to get to heaven than to put a camel, something like that, through the eye of a needle. And it's really true. Like, if you have to carry all the stuff and the energy that it takes to carry that, perceived wealth, you don't have time to stop and look at what you really even want. It's everything's about doing. And there's, I think when people of means get to the place, and there's a few of them that I've seen that have really been able to not let go of all their wealth, but just not have that energy run everything that they're doing. And it always requires like some really clear boundaries. Like, there's a time I'm working, and there's a time when I'm in presence with the ones I love. Right. And then if you do that enough, then even while you're working, you can be in the presence of love. And I've found that I have to slow down, take a lot of space to be at a pace of relationship with myself, so I don't forget and just get caught in whatever the rat race or the doing. That's like all these patterns and compulsions and triggers and responses that I'm not even paying attention to because I'm moving too fast. So your question was, what is it that, what's the
We have
common
in common. Yeah.
denominator? And I think it's the illusion or the story that my safety depends on what I do. And then is that true? Is our safety dependent? Because if it is, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because no amount of doing can make us feel safe. You could have all the money in the world, the best health insurance, and it can't make you actually any safer. It can give you home and house, but there's a limit. And then after that point, no more safety comes from that. Like, that's just providing for natural needs. And the deep safety comes from a different place. And like, the question is like, what is that deeper place? Like,
Yeah.
what creates real safety, right? I respect everyone who's made it successfully in the world, but not that many people who've made success feel deeply good about themselves and about what's happening. Some, but I'm talking deeply good,
Yeah.
not just like, we did it, we closed the deal, that's a temporary feeling good. There's a deeper sense of feeling good that can't be shaken by circumstance.
I think ultimately that's what led me here, right? That journey of, man, like I did all these things that I thought were
We're going to
going to
make me,
do
yeah.
something, and I thought we're going to change the trauma, and I thought it was going to hide
Mhm.
and very quickly in that external idea of there's an outside thing that will actually make me internally better. I found that there's a huge gap in there where there's just like the running story that is just never enough. You're going to see somebody with a bigger car. You're going to see somebody with a bigger house. You're going to see somebody with more success, more awards. You're going to look left, you're going to look right. And it's always going to be like this rat race. And I reached a point that ultimately I got tired. There's this sense, there's a place where even with all energy and spirituality, your body just says enough.
Yeah.
It's enough of like this idea, because while your mind could think 1,001 things, your body at some point, it loves to show you, and it's a reflection of the internal, which I never actually understood that until I started to sit with you, the concept of stories. And I would love for you to go into that, because it transformed the way that I valued the power of my words and the way that I thought about reality. Because for me, it made me understand my mind will believe whatever I'm telling it. And so my words have so much power and so much weight.
Yeah.
And two, that we really have all these stories that we love to tell ourselves. And like we said, I think like you, I know a lot of successful people who have passed away from major diseases, and with all the money in the world, their body couldn't solve it, or
the medical system couldn't solve it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know a lot of people in my business that have reached success at the highest level, and then their own stories end up taking them to a place where they commit suicide and can't deal with that mental struggle. Can you speak more on the concept of stories and how that?
I feel like we don't get to choose like what happens in the world, like, stuff happens, comes in. We don't have a choice on, we have some influence, on where we put ourselves in situations, but really we don't get to choose what happens. We do have choice on how we perceive and frame what happened, right? The stories that we tell about what happened, we have choice in that, and I think it's really important to be aware of that, because I think when we don't realize that we're actually, what's the great thing? Who's choosing, you're in California, everyone's going to be like, who chooses, who's creating your reality? And if I am, until your wife gets triggered and you're blaming her. And then all of a sudden you feel like she's creating your reality, right? And so the choices we have are how we frame what does happen, not so much what happens. And that does influence what happens, right? The way we frame it. And so being really, really aware of how I keep perpetuating old stories about myself or my partner or my work or whatever it is, or what safety is or what success is, really influences. But the only choice we really get to make in life is how we respond to what's happening. I think we have some say in that, but it takes slowing down enough to start to look at ourselves, like I was saying that earlier, and not being so hard on ourselves or so stuck in a story of rightness. I often think of that for myself. Like, a pretty advanced level of loving is to not to be right, but not need to use my rightness to overpower, like in a conversation with somebody else that I love, to not use my rightness to overpower the person. Like, am I willing to listen to my partner, even when I know I'm right? Am I able to validate my partner's experience? You know what I mean? Like, to be able to say, I understand how you feel, even if I have a story that's different than that and I feel like it's right. I mean, so much of the conflict I've gotten into with every relationship I'm in is when I don't feel like the other person understands my perspective. And if I want them to understand my perspective, I have to be willing to stop my rightness or my belief in the perspective and try to put myself in their place. That would be an example of like how I can change the story. I love the idea of framing it as story, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. We are creating the version of what we're seeing through our eyes. And, why is it so important that my rightness, that what I see be validated as real, right? And what if I'm actually open to getting feedback from you? And I said this earlier, but the reason I don't want to take feedback is because I intend to punish myself. For anybody who gets, like, I'm not actually afraid of somebody's feedback. I'm afraid of how I'm going to feel about myself in the face of their feedback,
Wow.
right? Which is a
Can
totally
you
different
repeat
thing.
that? Because that just resonated.
Yeah, I'm not actually afraid. You could say it instead of feedback. You could say, I'm not actually afraid of what other people think, even though it looks that way. I'm actually afraid of how I'm going to feel about myself if somebody thinks poorly of me. And that's a choice I have. I get to decide, okay, is that feedback that I could learn from, or do I need to defend myself? And the defense is always that I intend to punish myself if anybody doesn't like me, right? And then one of the major things that you can do is like, I don't care what anybody thinks. And I understand when people say that on one level, because it's trying to make a boundary. Like, I'm not going to let other people's opinion constitute or direct everything that I do in my life. But I actually do care about what other people think. I do. I just want to be able to, it's not like I don't want to care and take opinions. I just want to be able to make boundaries that they're like, hey, I want the feedback. And when I'm loving myself, when I'm clear and I'm loving myself, I want feedback. When I'm not, nobody can give me feedback because I take offense. And then I ask myself, why am I taking offense right now? Do I have to take offense? Is it optional? And I take offense because I intend to punish myself for, what I feel like is a mistake, or for being, I don't want to look at myself and think I'm lacking. What if it's okay? What if it's all here just to help me to learn? It's not a punishment, right? I don't know if that actually kind of went off sideways a little
No,
bit.
that's that we all feel in one way or the other to different circumstances and situation. And one of the things that, as I've interviewed some of our guests, the thing that keeps coming up is the weight of the word of purpose. Like, there's this natural fear or story that we've been living of my life doesn't have meaning if it doesn't have purpose. And there's this fear that I won't become this idea of myself that I have for myself. And so I'm afraid of failure, or I'm afraid I have the necessity to be more and show more because my identity is so tied to this idea of purpose and of self-worth that then becomes why I don't want to listen to somebody, or why I don't or why I feel attacked when really no one's attacking me, someone's just sharing. What would you say is the healthiest way to address this story that I need to define my purpose? I need to be super clear on my purpose, and I need to define what my life is going to be, and I need to beat failure, because if not, like, I'm just not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of positive words. I'm not worthy of even living for many people. How do you view purpose, and how do you view the story about purpose, and how can we reframe that, right? Because I feel like that's especially in our youth, it's just a constant struggle and fear that youth lives with.
Yeah. What is purpose? That's a good question. Do you, like, I'm just curious for you, what do you feel like is the deepest purpose that you have right now? What's the thing that you feel like calls you towards the deepest desire of, what brings you deep sense of purpose and meaning right now, just in the state of your, just right in this moment? Like, what feels like the thing that would give you the deepest sense of, I've reached my purpose?
Growing up in church, I was taught that the purpose was always others. And even when you walk into Neon, into the company, it's like the purpose is to change lives. As I've started to do this work at this precise moment, and not to say that it can't change, but at this moment, it feels like the biggest purpose I have is to look inside.
Yeah.
Because I've started to realize that everything that has been presented to me in a story has always felt like there's an external need of something in order to feel self-worth. And at least the process I'm in right now, I'm starting to really feel like, until I get myself to delete these stories that external is where happiness is, or where success is, or
that what I do creates
success, instead of like, no, or creates self-value. If I help people and I feel good about helping people and they think I'm great, then I'm living my purpose. I believe now that, and I'll answer this a little bit more firm, I believe now that in looking inside and finding the content and the acceptance of what I am today, not tomorrow or the next day, but what I am today, then from that place of wholeness, whatever happens externally that affects people, it could be a beautiful thing.
And when you say I look inside, what does that look like for you? When you're looking inside, what are you looking for?
I'm looking at the stories that have created prisons in my heart and in my mind. And I'm looking for the key to unlock them.
Yeah.
Because in our work together, I've learned the power of those stories and how they have created prisons in my life that created a version of myself that needed things from external, that created my self-value in my career, and how one of my clients would look at me or not look at me, and my need to control that in order to feel like
that's right. That's the piece.
You know? And it's like, in the acceptance, which I think for anybody listening to this, none of this that I'm talking about is easy to get, and no one is arrived.
And you don't arrive at it. That's right.
It's like,
it's not like I've looked inside and it's all taken care of. I did that, check the box, and you go on, right? That's not how it works. I think it's more, I want to look inside, and I want to cultivate an energy. What's this? Chief, I think his name was. It said, if you have taken a deep look at yourself and you weren't horrified by what you saw, you probably didn't look very deep. And I think that is the first layer, is we don't want to look inside because we're not going to like what we see there, right? And then there's a cultivation of like, I want to look at myself and not judge myself for what I see so that I can really look. I want to be kind to myself as I look. And it doesn't mean I want to be complacent or
Mhm.
bypass. I want to do the work to really look and feel the impact of what I'm seeing. But like, I think that when we go, I want to look inside, I want to slow down enough to look and see what all these compelling factors are that are driving me to do, because it's not working. They're like, always doing to try to make myself feel safe has not worked. And so I'm being run by all these impulses and all these triggers and all these, reactions, like I know with my wife, Patra, like I look and I call it the dynamic, right? It's not like Patra and I have hundreds of different arguments. We have one kind of dynamic that just keeps coming up over and over again. And we argue about it in a bunch of different ways. Right. And
That's funny.
right? It's
That is
true.
true. It's
It's
so true.
true. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
for me, it's true. And so I'm like, okay, is it worth just taking enough time to sit with myself and go, why am I getting so triggered? Why am I like moving so fast that I can't even feel what's happening? Because what comes when I'm moving that fast? And I end up judging I judge, and then I get, and then I defend and I blame, and then people feel that, and then there's like an unsafe environment. So as I like take a good look within and start going, I really want to know why I'm being so compelled by my desires and my fears, right? I want to know, what is this? And the first wave is always like, when I'm contracted, is to blame. Well, I'm feeling that because they did, and then I list all the reasons why. And then yet if I really look deeply, I go, wait a second, like if it's really true that I get to choose how I feel, I don't have to be taking offense to somebody's unskillful behavior. I can
Mhm.
just go, wow, that person's having a hard time, and they're projecting a lot out into and it's not personal. It's not really about me. Even when somebody is directly putting it towards me and is blaming me or judging me, it's really not personal. They're just having a hard time, and they think it's about me. I don't have to think it's about me. If I know it's not, I can still feel good in the face of that, right? I can still go, it's good information to know. I think I need to make a boundary with this person, or I think, I want to respond well. But if I don't take the time to look within a little bit, if I don't have enough time to just sit with myself and tune into what I'm really feeling, I'm going to respond with another reaction. So then there's just all these reactive things. I mean, I think so much of what's being built in the world right now is just coming from unconscious reactions,
Mhm.
impulses that we're doing because we haven't taken the time to look and sit with maybe uncomfortable feelings, or just, feelings that are showing up that aren't even from anything that's happened in my life. My dad's dad had some unconscious behavior that he passed on to his father or his son, and then it got passed on. And I'm getting all this sort of like information that came at me when I was a child that was, that I'm still dealing with, that was never mine, that didn't even happen in this world. And if I want to like not keep passing that on, and it's not like I see it once and then I stop. I have to all the time be paying attention. What am I like? How am I responding right now? And one thing I'll say for sure is, I've needed to slow down, not stop, to just slow down enough so that whatever I'm going to do is coming from a deeper sense of peace in my being. And
Mhm.
that feels really unsafe at first, because we're so used to doing. We're so used to safety is what we do. And honestly, it can be
So
really,
you think the question of purpose comes down more to understanding the stories we tell ourselves, or do
that's a
you
good way to
feel
say
that
it.
um, or do you feel like something that needs to be utterly clearly
Well,
defined in
purpose
order to do?
purpose changes all the time, right? But like if purpose is some act of doing, like say I want to start a company, and I want to, and you create a purpose around what that is, and then that just becomes the narrative and the purpose, and you're not looking anywhere else other than to achieve that purpose. I mean, it is fulfilling a purpose, but is that really what the purpose of your life is? And most people who start companies, I mean, I've seen a number of companies start with both, we want to have wealth and abundance, and we want to do good into the world.
Mhm.
But as soon as you get into the competitive market, the whole do good, if one company can make more money by not doing good, and you want to stay, competitive with that one, then you've sort of got to do the same thing. And I've just seen how many companies lose the deeper purpose to the purpose of what I don't think is true safety, but I understand why we do it, that, you know, to compete and to stay in the current markets, you know, and or whatever it is, the current field of whatever you're doing. And so a deeper purpose to me has to feel good within. Like it has to feel deeply good. And I have to
Mhm.
slow down enough to like to tune in to, does this really feel good? And then the way I really, the metric for me that tells me I'm doing it is when I step into my house. How's it feel? Is there anything in the way between, have I been so busy with my partnership, I mean, with my work, that my partner is resentful because I'm giving her the message or my children the message that what I'm doing, even though I'm doing it to try to create safety in home, but what I'm doing is more important than being with them,
I
right?
think what I get from that conversation is really that this idea of needing to define our deepest sense of why we are here comes from a needing to feel secure,
Yeah, there you go.
right? Like needing to feel
The safety is the
like
idea of security.
like the security and the safety is what makes us feel whole. And then, you know, because of the stories we've been told, because the society that we live in, and how, you know, our parents have passed on stories, I can speak on myself. It feels like, you know, my parents, my mother's a pastor, so I grew up with this idea that the purpose is full serving at all time. But then, you know, you go serve people and they're humans like you, they're hurting, they're going through the process. And chances are they're going to disappoint you, right? Chances are they might not say thank you. They might not give you a plate of food back, or they're not, you know, and I can say that from my POV as a music manager, is that most of the time, you know, the idea that you are going to receive back uh, this expected, expected reality that they're going to give you back what you're giving them is usually not the case. You really have to find true security in yourself and serve from a place of wholeness to not feel resentment towards your client because they're worried about their own career. They're not worried about yours, for the most part.
I mean, there's a difference between serving, which I love, and saving. Like if I'm coming in to save, like I actually really feel like no one needs saving.
Yeah, you always tell me that.
Yeah, no one needs saving, right? Like the world doesn't, I mean, I know why you would feel and why people care, and we have to fix this thing. But what if everything that's happening is, you know, in some bigger level design to teach and to show us and to, you know, like we were saying, every time I've had a major takedown in my life, things have come back around in a way that like deepened my understanding of true safety. By losing it all, I found deeper safety. By holding on to it, like I'm afraid because I have something to lose, right? And one of the deeper safety, like, is the understanding that no one needs saving. You know, if you and I are working together and you feel like I need to save you, we either get into this drama triangle thing where like your job, Ishmael, is to save me and you didn't do it. I'm not saved. It's your fault. And then I become the villain, you know, and that won't work. And I don't, when I feel like someone is here to save me, I feel like what they're really saying to me is they don't trust me. They don't believe in me. Like if someone comes and says, I'm so concerned about you, I just want them to go away because the feeling I'm having is like you don't trust that I got this, right? And so that saving thing for me doesn't work very well. What if I don't even need to be saved, or you don't need to be saved, but I do want to refine so that I feel more peace, right? Nothing's broken, but I would like to do a better job of seeing this, you know, redefining the story or the perspective so that I'm like feeling more peace, and nothing is required in form of things to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like nothing has to change in order. Like how many times have you had a really stressful, you're in fear, and then you just go to bed and the next morning you wake up and it all feels a little different. Like, oh, you know, and it was so real in the moment and your perspective changes. And then like, oh, hey, wait, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, right? And I think that's when I talk about looking within, I want to be able to look within so I can sort of help to guide that thing that's like, you know, I'm afraid. And I'm so used to doing to fix the fear. What happens when I can't do it away? That all I've got is to either suffer in it or sit in it and get used to the uncomfortability and try to cultivate a way inside of myself so that I can change the perspective. And as the perspective changes, then that's where I feel peace. Nothing, it's like I've said this to you before, but you can imagine it's sort of like Lex the wave, right? You're a wave on the ocean, the form of Lex, right? And when you want passion, when you want to do something, you want to create, you become a wave. You're the ocean that turns into the form of Lex, and you're cruising along. There's Lex, beautiful wave, nice job. You're doing, and then all of a sudden Lex is coming up to the shore, and it's like, holy shit, I'm about to like crash onto the shore and break into 1,000 pieces. My life is over. And from that perspective of form, when you're identified as Lex the wave, there's all this fear because the wave is going to crash on the shore and it will no longer exist. You're going to be gone. But what really happens is that the wave just turns back into the ocean again. So when you want deep safety, when you want to be feeling really safe, you identify more with I'm the ocean. I'm not the form that of this body. I'm the force that's animating this body. That's deep safety. When I want passion, I want to be the wave, right? And so playing those, I think when I look within, I'm trying to touch the ocean inside of myself instead of the wave, right? I'm trying to like
Wow.
identify with the ocean part of, of me, which isn't even really Ishmael. Like, what is Ishmael? Ishmael is a body here. It's a form. It's a set of memories that I don't even remember that much of what's happened before. And then, and then when I get into fear, it's when I start thinking about things that were uncomfortable in the past, that can feel uncomfortable, what is it? The pains of my past, right? Or the fear of from those pains of what's going to happen in the future. How often do I sit in just the loving presence right now of what is? I'm here with Lex, we're sitting and we're talking. And when I can do that, it feels like what is there to fix? What's broken? Like, we think everything's broken. And then I'm like, Lex, is it warm enough in here? Do you have a glass of water? Are you like, is there anything wrong right now? If there is, let's like focus on that. But what we do is we focus on the story of what might or might not happen in the future and what did happen in the past and what that means. And so, like, that taking time to look within to find deeper meaning is also just learning how to be in loving presence, right? And when we do that, I don't know, peace arises. Like, what's this? I
Yeah.
just read it last night. It was the Course in Miracles has this, what is it? I may not get it exactly right, but that which is real cannot be threatened, like truth and
Hmm.
love. And what's really real, it can't be threatened. It just is.
Yeah.
That which is unreal, which is like fear, the stories that we tell, they aren't
Yeah.
real. That which is unreal doesn't exist. And therein lies the peace of God, which is like when you realize that fear is an illusion, it has definite consequences and it has definite impact. Like if we believe in fear and we're living in fear, it will affect our bodies. That's what's happening. We're in a state of deep
Hmm.
fear and resistance in the world right now, right? And but the fear is just a perception. You wake up in the morning and the fear is gone. Nothing's changed except for your perspective, and it goes away. And I want to have more skill and teach people how to be more skillful in their ability to sit with themselves so they can know the difference between, what fear is and what love is. And so often we are compelled by our fears as an act of love. You know what I mean when I say
Yeah.
that? Like, I think I felt that with the storming of the Capitol when that happened. I'm like, there was a lot of passion right there, backed by a lot of fear that if we don't do this, something's going to happen, right? And I'm more looking for passion without the fear. I want that passion that I care, but I don't want it to be backed by fear, the fear of what could happen or what did happen, right? And I'm going to learn how to do that. And then, how we do it, Lex, is we don't talk about it. All this talking, we start to embody it in our beings. We want to give a roadmap to the people we love. We want peace on earth. We got to find peace in here. And there's no amount of doing that can find that. There's nothing you can do as an act that will help you find peace if you can't find it within yourself. And honestly, for me, it's uncomfortable. Like it still is. Like I don't like to sit and like, I don't really even meditate classically. I just want to move at a pace of my life that's slow enough so I can really pay attention to what's going on within me and be really authentic in what that is. And I can say to my wife, honey, I'm triggered right now and I want to blame you. I feel like it's about you, but I know it's not about you. And so I'm just going to take a little while to let this feeling pass. And then I want to come back and check in with you on it and like see, did that impact you? But if I'm triggered in the moment, it never helps me to try to work it out in that moment. So that would be like moving at a pace of relationship where I can really study myself, And I mean, that's the only game in town for me. It's like my success is really how deeply can I look at myself and be with myself and not judge myself for what I see, and then take real direct actions, firm, clear actions that help me to express that and share that. And there's no arrival. It's not like, here he is. I did all the work. It's every day, all the time. And when you're in that, they call it the work, you've heard that.
Yeah.
I want to do my work. And that's the work. It's like, I want to look at what impulses are driving me and not be so compelled by them that I don't understand what they are. And then enough strength in myself to return quickly to this place of peace. And I've noticed that happening more and more in my life as I've gotten older. And like I think a good signal that you're getting it is when you look back at everything that happened and you don't regret any of it, even the worst of things. I was molested as a child, and my mother was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and there was a lot of hardship. And I look back and I'm like, thank God all that happened, because of that, I have so much compassion for every other person that goes through that. Without that, I wouldn't have any context to it. And, I could tell the story that I'm not okay, that I am the product of that. And I am affected by it. I still get affected by it. I can get triggered. I have responses. I'm just more aware that it's coming. I'm like, oh, there's that old triggered response. And what's different now is instead of being identified with that response, it's more like, there it is. Oh, yeah, that feeling. There you are. Instead of, I'm so afraid right now, Lex. It's like, oh, wow, there's a lot of fear present right now. And there's a part of me that's not afraid, looking at myself, being afraid. And I like cultivating that. It can be through practices. I play music in the morning, but it's more like a life, slow walking meditation of looking at these things. And again, I just have to say, it's so much is based on being kind to myself as I do it. I cannot express how many people, successful people, quote, successful people, are so hard on themselves, and that drives them forward, but they can't really look because they're going to punish themselves. So they just do. And you can get as much doing done and have all the things that look like success, but feel unsatisfied. And you can have very little in the world, but have this place of an internal peace. And I would trade it 10 times over for any worldly success. And beautifully enough, if you get this right, it actually can help you to have true, like, it's not that you can't have abundance, but abundance with peace is a way nicer combination than abundance or none, like abundance with peace, passion without fear, abundance with peace.
Passion without fear, abundance with peace. So much to unpack in what you
Yeah,
just said.
yeah,
But
just a little,
I just, for someone who is used to kind of talking so much, I think one of the things that I resonate with spending time with you
Mhm.
is that I'm legit at odds sometimes of just like the clarity that this journey has given you and the way that that information really sticks to me like glue, and it's been transformative to my life. But I know I have a lot of listeners who are young people who say, okay, well, all this sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But how do I start?
Yeah.
Like, where is that starting point?
Yeah.
And what was that starting point in your journey, in your own personal life? Because I know we met in this very place. I want to say I'm like a scared little boy that came with his tail in the middle of his legs at a place in my life where I felt lost,
That's what it is.
that was the point where I felt that even though to the outside world,
everyone was seeing that you were having success.
everyone was seeing success and structure, and oh my God, Lex has it all together, and he's goodness. My inside was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. So is the question, what brought me into my desire to look in?
I think it's a threefold. I think it's one, if I'm a listener and I'm listening to you speak and I'm listening to this conversation, I maybe listen to the whole list of episodes on this podcast. How do I start?
Yeah.
And in answering that before, how did you start? Right? Like, what's your story? And how did we get to this beautiful couch where we share so much?
Questionable if it's a beautiful couch, but a comfortable couch. Yeah. I don't know if there was a start exactly. Like, I actually feel like any of us that are alive in 2025, right? That it started by being born right now. Like, we're in such, it could look like just the most scary, because there's an incredible turning of energy. Things are being, we all have our personal takedowns that happen where we lose. And, just a brief answer for how it started, the more spiritual looking within, was the threat of losing things that I loved. Peace, partnership for me was part of it. But it really started at birth. It just started by being born into the life I was born into. And I feel this incredible turning that looks like an incredible takedown. Their environment is being destroyed. The structures that we love and are being taken apart. And we really are in an incredible period of a transition. And at the same time that that's happening, I feel this, like, it's like this big swinging thing going around and around. And if you're in the momentum of that and not caught in the story of it, it has the potential. Like, I actually am super inspired to be alive right now. Like, everything that we want and could ever need is at our fingertips right now, especially, if we're in the United States and we're so privileged. But with that whole thing that's happening of the takedown, there's a momentum that's rising up. And I just feel like in all the people I work with, I feel like a deeper willingness in all the people that I meet. Everyone wants to, even if they don't know it, they want to look within. They just don't know how. We're a culture of people that don't have any roots, no pathway, no roadmap. And something's emerging. A roadmap is emerging in each one of us that are doing our work. And I just look at you, Lex, and I'm not requiring an arrival. I just see a man who has had the metrics of success and saw that it wasn't going to bring you deep happiness, and a willingness to start your journey to look within. So it's like, I realize that, it's hard to do it until you get there. You have to sometimes, to the younger people, I'm just like, I give them the dignity of the experience they're having, whatever you need to do. Like, one of my sons really, really wants to be financially wealthy. That's his goal. I would never say, that's not the way. Don't do that. I've done it before. It'll never bring you happy. You can't do that. Like, give them the dignity of their experience. But along the way, just like being a roadmap, and, like, another just metrics of success is like, all of my sons are grown. They're all, between 28 and 40. And they still call me all the time, and they're never calling me to get advice, even though sometimes I'm just clear. They don't want me to tell them what to do. They're just looking at me to see if I trust that what they're doing is okay, or if I believe they're going to be okay. And I don't do that by saying, you're going to be okay. I do it by, like, am I trying to control them through my fear? No, don't do that. And make sure that never works. But when they just feel me going, I got you, I trust you, and I can have my feelings, but, like, there's an overall divine masculine, for me, energy that I feel, the great father energy that says the sun is still shining. I know it's cloudy down there, but I'm a reminder the sun is shining. And I don't do that through saying it. I just feel it in myself and share my love with them. I mean, when you can feel love, that's success. When you can actually really feel it, and, part of, like, we've just talked about that earlier today, to feel love, we have to be able to feel grief. we have to be able to say goodbye and feel the first doorway of grief, which is you're going to lose everything that you love and everything that you have. Let's say goodbye to it, either right now or when you die, right? And to start that process, you have to be able to grieve and go, I'm taking that in, because what we really do as a culture is avoid it at all costs. I don't think about that. It's not happening right now. I remember I used to have this like little sign on my VW van that said it's all good, right? Which was another saying, I don't have to grieve. I don't have to feel that I'm making it all good. So there's nothing to, there's no loss involved here. And yet now I'm like, oh, I want to learn how to grieve, not because I want to be depressed and dark. Grief is the doorway to all the feelings. If we can't grieve deeply inside of ourselves, and I'm not talking about regret or shame or blame, I'm talking about being able to feel the depth of, like, just think about, like, you know, your little girl, and your wife, and you have to say goodbye. And if you can't touch the feeling of that, then something's missing. And that's dangerous, because if you can't touch that, you can let anything of precious value be destroyed. And we do it, we don't grieve because we're afraid of the feeling of, like, I can feel it inside of myself right now. We're afraid of the feelings I don't want to face that feeling of having to say goodbye to something that I love. I ignore it or bypass it or do it away. And what I really want is to be able to feel it and not store it. The grief, the painful part of grief is the regret and the shame that we feel. And those are what I call going sideways with grief. That's when someone dies, or you didn't make it to their death, like, why didn't I get, and then you spin, and regret is just this, like, it says I made a mistake, and because I made that mistake, I'm not worthy of love. That's what regret is. Remorse is I made a mistake, I feel the impact, and I'm learning from it. And then you get released. I feel it, I care, but now I'm just going to grieve the loss of this person. I'm not going to keep storing, I'm not worthy of love because it happened, right? I should have done it better. That ability to be able to grieve healthily is like a part of what could save our worlds, and I think will save the world, right? Grief is not something we get over, not something we do it and then, okay, it's over. It's something we learn how to do. We court grief when it comes. It's like a wave. It comes and we feel it. How many times do you just miss somebody you love and just shows up like a wave on the ocean, and then you feel it while it's there. You don't avoid it, and then it goes back down into the sea of things. I want to court it. And I think when we do, we have a range of being able to feel. And oftentimes for me, honestly, I don't think suffering is required, but it has definitely helped me to touch my grief. And the suffering is the part that says it shouldn't have been the way it is. And the grief is the part that says, now that it's happened, this is what I really feel. And it's such a heavy price to pay to not be able to feel grief. It's called numbness. Numbness is just, to be numb is, like, to me, I mean, I guess there's probably other things that are worse, but the least thing in my life that I'd rather be uncomfortable than numb. And I think most people are choosing numbness over uncomfortability. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so we kind of went around this little journey
Yeah.
there, but for, I mean, I would never tell the new young people that might be listening, learn how to grieve. It's just like beyond, no one in their emerging adult really wants to learn how to grieve. But I would say that if there's stuff coming up, to be willing to, to experience loss without trying to avoid it and without storing it. And I would just say that I trust what's emerging in the world right now. I trust what's happening, and I don't know what's going to happen, but
I think when I read the question, and this is interesting because I asked my team, and maybe we'll do at least one or two of the questions, but I asked the team, because all of us, I think the point is that none of us have arrived. So I asked everyone in the team, is there a question that you would love to ask when we have this opportunity to have this kind of conversations and change perspectives, and one of those questions was that, right? It's like, what's the starting point? Because I think people notice transformation. People can see when something different is happening in your life. You can feel the energy.
I mean, the starting point is willingness. If we had to use a word, you have to be willing to start. And again, the Course in Miracles, who are the teachers of God?
Yeah.
That's like the framing. They say, who are the people that are going to teach about God? Anybody who feels called to,
Yeah.
who's willing to, is because that starts it. You have to have a willingness.
Yeah.
I want to look deeper than the constructs of what society says is success, a willingness. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that, then no one's going to make you do that. Like, you know what you want and you're going to go for it, and
Yeah.
then suddenly you lose something and a deeper willingness comes in. Does that make sense? So I think
Yeah,
willingness is,
willingness. I think it's amazing too, and I do think there's this being kind to yourself,
yeah.
right? Especially for our youth with the pressures of Instagram and everything. It's like
Totally.
being
Totally.
kind to yourself, to your trauma, to the things that trigger you, because we're so quick to judge. We're so quick to judge others, and we're so quick to judge ourselves. And that creates shame, and then it creates then the desperate need for an outside thing to supplement that.
That's right.
So I think willingness and self-love have been, at least in my own personal journey, kind of the two things that started to change the dynamic of like, okay, I can actually go down this path, which is where I'm going to grief, right? Like, I think that's another thing is like, I say a lot in the podcast that, pain is necessary for growth, and suffering is a mental way how you perceive that pain. But pain is necessary. You want to go to the gym, you got to go, you got to pump the iron, you're going to be sore.
Pain happens.
This process for me, that's another thing too, and having a moment of honesty, this process of like looking inside hurts.
Yeah.
Because you're facing these hard-rooted things that you've established as reality and as your truth. And
that's right.
And
it's scary too.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the place where I was when I came here, specifically my relationship and love, right? And how rooted I was in the idea that my truth was the right truth, and how could I couldn't be with her because look at what the stuff, and I think the transformation of my relationship to me was kind of the biggest the pain. I had to meet the grief. I had to be at a place where I was,
and sometimes you have to be taken down to do it.
Taken down. And we were talking about that earlier, about the concept that sometimes things needs to be collapsed in order for you to be able to build. You have to demo a building in order to build a new one on it. And
that's right. And then we also talked about, which is a good one, that, sometimes the demolition is just like an explosion. But if you want to change realities well, you do them, you close one door, you take the building down carefully before you start another one. You don't just destroy it. You don't burn the bridge. It's like, that's a sign of initiatory adultness, is when you can close one door, relationship or work, as you're starting another one. And it's not the burn down the whole thing. And unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, a lot of times it's the takedown. It's just like, you just got full Nelson. You just got taken down and locked up, and you have to face it from that way, because we're so resistant to doing it well. We don't know how, that it has to happen hard. Does that make sense? Like it ends up being a shock, and it's shamanically even, like, so many people make the change when they have a heart attack, and all of a sudden they realize, oh my God, or they suddenly are finding out they're going to be divorced, or they get cancer, and that's the wake up call that shifts them, the takedown, the wake up call, same analogy. And that's what makes the shift. And like, I think any young person who listens to this, and they'll know if they're either already shut it off because it's boring to them and they don't want to do it, or they're interested. And if they're interested, they've already started the process, right? And then another one I would say, what helped me, Lex, and I think it's helping you, is it's rare to have good mentors. It's like you met Don Rosenthal, but I met this man, Don Rosenthal. He was 25 years older than me. And I saw him, and I right away said, oh my gosh, that's what it could look like if I do my work. That's what I could be, my own version of that in, 25 years. And to have somebody that's older than you, and you go, wow, that's a great example of what it can look like. I think that is a big part of something. That's how I want to give back. I want to be an example of that, and I want to do it because I want to serve, not because I want to save, but And because I've seen the effect of that and how that helped me. And I can see that, our friendship and relationship and mentorship is doing something like that for you.
And even that first, I speak a lot about Don because in reading his book, it's given me a different perspective. I always say, like, it's really interesting, and you do it all the time too, which is really interesting to have an author check themselves in the process.
Yeah.
Like, here's the theory, and by the way, I'm checking the theory to tell you the overall concept is you still, and for me, I'll never forget the words Don said when we sat in that room, and he just said, my costume is failing, but my mind is intact.
Yeah.
It was that moment where it was like, wow, this is just a costume. Like, wow, there's idea about life that we have that it is all over when this matter is done, or where this starts failing. And that was really impactful. And I agree with you. I think mentorship and having, I say all the time in the podcast that our brain is a computer. And there's things that you could do yourself in your computer, right? You can send an email, you can write a text, you can Google something. And then there's things that you need to be like, hey, buddy, can you help me out? And you call your friend, and your friend is going in there and helping you do an Excel sheet. And that's like community and this kind of conversation. And then there's sometimes that you need a Google software engineer,
Yeah, that's right.
Like, you got to take it to the Best Buy Genius Bar because you just can't do it by yourself. And we see that happen in relationships. I saw it happen in my own relationship where I saw the identity I had within my truth block the opportunity to listen to someone else. And like you said, take that feedback, understand that lesson and that growth of the mirror image, and then be able to blossom the relationship.
Like, I'll just check you on that just as a framing, which is, you said, I saw, which implies it doesn't happen anymore, right? Yeah. So a better framing, if we're going to really do this, is like, I see when that happens, because I saw is kind of been saying to yourself, I did that, it's done. I'm now arrived. And that's the kind of nuances I think how do we frame things so that we can really learn from them instead of perpetuating old stories, right? And which one old story is, I used to do it. Like, how many times how easy it is to talk about my past as though I've taken care of it and it's not happening in the present, or
which is not true.
Everything that's like, I remember when I used to do, it's like, I still do that. I might be more aware of it, or, there's certain compulsions that I don't follow anymore. But basically everything that rose up in the past still shows up. It's just, am I aware that it's showing up, and what do I want to do with it when it does? Like, and that's this, like, looking within, because you were saying that, like, I want to look within, and, and I was saying, and not judge myself for what I see. And so that I'm not being so compelled by all these reactions, all these impulses, right? I want to take, and I think those are really important aspects of this work, and this is, would you say that what you're experiencing now in your life is more important than the doings of your life?
100%.
Yeah. And are they influencing what you would like to do? Right?
It's been transformative to my everyday decision. And like you said, the struggle of in that, but it's understanding of being still enough to listen. And I've said a few times, like, still enough to listen, still enough to be able to even listen to ourselves, listen to like, Don says in the book, it's like, if you take a moment to replay the film, you'll be able to catch that moment.
Yeah.
And that moment will give you a window into an awareness where when that film gets replayed again, you can perceive it in a different way, or start to perceive it in a different way.
Well, you could also say that with, like, if I just take a moment before I say something to see if it's something I really need and want to say, you may decide, how many times do we just blurt it out without even considering what the impact's going to be? And, and how many times do I take the moment, see that it's not going to be of use, and I say it anyway, right? And so that's another one, right? Is like, can we take enough time? Can we go slow enough to really consider? I think we have a belief that what we say doesn't really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it doesn't really matter, I'll just say it. And then we're highly offended when we say something and nobody takes it seriously, right? It's like both of these things. And I really believe in my life. And that's just basically what you're saying about framing, is that I really think it matters what I say, out into the world to others, and most importantly,
To
within
yourself.
myself.
I want to take this time to ask you two questions the
Mhm.
team had. What's the idea of heaven, and is there a promised land?
If heaven means that I go to some other place after I die, that is going to stop all the feelings, and then I don't believe in that heaven in that way. I think heaven is accessible right now by turning off the story, right? Like I had an experience of dying. I did a medicine that like took me to a plant medicine that took me into a whole nother dimension. And as I was going there, I realized my fear was that I was going to die, and then there was going to be nothing forever. And then in that journey going towards there, I stopped at that door. There's nothing. I'm alone. I'm separate. I've lost everything. And now I just sit in this awareness forever. That was a short period. And I realized in that moment, oh, I'm not afraid of what people think. I'm not afraid of dying. Although the process of dying and the letting go of the people that I'm that causes a lot of fear in there. But the deepest fear I have is not existing after I die. That after I'm dead and gone, there's nothing, and that just goes on forever. And what happened was, it wasn't nothing forever. There was no Ishmael there. It wasn't that. It was everything. It was total unity with everything. There was no separation. The construct of Ishmael is a story that there's an Ishmael and there's everything else. And this was like, there's just everything. And it was just stamped with such truth and such peace that as I returned back to Ishmael, I just said, it's not nothing forever, it's everything forever. And I can't say that. So heaven to me is the separation from the story that I'm separate, and it's not a place I go. It's not a place out there. There's not some place in the sky or that's the promised land. It is the understanding that there's no separation between Ishmael and the force of life that is animating everything. And the awakened ones are the people who realize that while they're still alive. And I think that's what
Mhm.
heaven is for me, and that's the promised land.
Love that. And the second question is, how do I follow my dreams and reach my dreams while having internal peace?
Move slow, go slowly. Yeah. Or if you can't go slowly, make good boundaries around having periods of slowness so that you can actually see if it's really the dream that you really want, right? Like I'm currently doing this thing of taking like 4 days a month for me, that I'm not doing anything. It's not a phone. I just get in my little RV and I go to a natural spot and I just commune with myself. And then from that place, I get to see if I'm following my dreams, and I come back and make a real stand to change them. But I have to move slow. Like the thing is, we get going so fast in the doing. The world's moving so fast right now, and it's like slowing down a little bit is like the way that I can just see if I'm really following my dream or if it's just the compulsion. Anything else that you guys are
Yeah,
like?
there's one that Tony, he's telling me, please ask. So I want to ask, how do you protect your energy and spirituality while helping others?
Yeah, by not telling any stories, meaning, like when I'm in the field of holding that space for others, I don't take anything personally. I don't let anybody's reaction be something that's about me, no matter what's happening. And just in general, when I do this work when I'm just counseling somebody, I'm fully present while I'm there. And then when it's done, I don't go back and replay the tapes and tell the story. And the beautiful thing about it is I end up leaving invigorated. I'm having this holy conversation with this other person, and I'm teaching what I'm trying to learn myself. Does that make
Mm,
sense? Like I want to learn it and I'm sharing it, and then I'm getting feedback. So there's not really a teacher and a student. It's just like this reciprocating thing. And when you do that well, you leave feeling charged up, and I can tell when I don't get it right, which is usually when I get attached to a narrative or a story or a judgment, and then I get tired. And it's like, then I want to complain and judge. And Yeah, I can really feel like if I want to heal myself, it's like, and I don't want to be in disease, like a diseaseful. There's a real requirement to, to stop judgment and blame and strong opinion. I can have opinions or understandings, but my attachment to them, like if I'm not attached, I give you the dignity of your experience, Lex. Go
Yeah.
wherever you want to go and do it however you want to. And I don't want to feed that I know what your experience should look like. I have some ideas of what feels good for me. And I think safety between you and I it requires me not judging you or telling you what to do. Right? Loving you enough to want to help guide if you feel, but also I love that. That was one Dawn statement. Like, I give you the dignity of your experience. Like, I don't know what your experience is supposed to look like, so don't judge it.
Mm.
And just think about how many times you judge somebody else, you think they know, and you can see they're going to suffer and you get attached to their suffering. Especially as a parent, we do that,
Wow.
right? But like, I give dignity to their experience and then you let it go. So you're not attached to the outcome and it's restful. It's like, oh gosh, I feel a lot better, like not getting all caught up in their story.
Yeah.
I feel it when I do. And I don't know, that help,
Yeah.
Tony?
So we always end the podcast with a beautiful exercise that talks about everything we've been talking here, right? Which is words have powered. Our mind
Mhm.
believes what we tell it, and we're with ourselves more than we are with anybody else.
Beautiful.
So, what is one word or one phrase that Ishmael could tell himself that you could share with us that can change how your mind and body perceives the rest of today, the rest of this week?
It would be 2 words: love and kindness.
Ish has been amazing. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
It's very, very special to me. Uh, you know, I could only say that we are exactly where we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we're sharing exactly what we're supposed to be sharing. So it's been a blessing, and I'm so thankful for sharing this space with you.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting us into your home and all the production team into your home.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love you, brother.
Yeah, I love you too, and I'm glad it's not over.
Yeah. I'm glad that we get to continue.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank you.
Lex.
Thank you guys for tuning in to You Versus You. Please subscribe, like, and share as we build this community and we help each other to live the life of our dreams.